Hello, this is Dennis with A1 Telephone Service and Repair, A1 Electronics. You can get us on the web at www.a1-telephone.com. And this is a customer's telephone that they had on the telephone. It said, no transmit. They put it on a piece of tape here on the robot's head here. So anyway, basically, if you caught the first video, we went in and we went into the handset and we replaced the microphone element. Okay, and it was a poor design basically, because what they did was they wanted to bolt this board to the body of the handset and then yet let this mic stand up here like this, and then when you put the top on, the microphone would slide into this hole here. Well, it would only go in so far, and really it's kind of a engineering for failure there. After the microphone gets a little age on it and it doesn't perform well, then the microphone's not all the way down into its bracket or its holding area, and the sound that comes through this little hole here is not enough to make the phone have good transmit. So basically what we did was we redesigned the telephone. We soldered in a microphone, and we've already done that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install that microphone now where it belongs. And we're going to hit it with a little hot glue so that it stays in the body of the telephone. So let's do that right now. Let's go ahead and we could do this though right before we do that. Let's show you that the telephone has modulation. Let's do that. Let's check it out. And that would be a good idea to check it out before we put it all back together again. But I've already checked this telephone and I know it has. Okay. I'll go ahead and talk into the microphone. And that red indicator light on the analyzer you'll see is 100% modulation. Hello, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hello. That is 100% modulation on the telephone analyzer indicator light there. Every time you see it blink red when I talk, that's an indication of it working 100%. So we know this microphone is in good shape and is going to work just fine for us. So let's unplug the telephone now. And I'm going to go ahead and set this down so that we can get a little view of what's going on here. I want to put the microphone in where it belongs. Okay. Now, this isn't usually for the squeamish. I want to melt out a little piece there, and I want to put I want to set the mic line in there, so that'll kind of hold that there. We want to make sure the mic is all the way down. And here's some hot glue. It's just a chunk of hot glue. We have a lot of this floating around, plus we have glue guns because of the fact that we're in these phones all day long and electronics. So you'll see a lot of that laying around. So I just picked up a nice little chunk. And here's your soldering gun again. See, your soldering iron is your buddy. Not only will it solder, it'll do a lot of stuff that and you just kind of want to melt this in there, kind of move it around and melt it in there, and basically get it all melted so that it holds that microphone in there. And that should do the trick. Now I'm going to hold that for a few seconds because I want it to I want it to dry. Give it a chance to dry. And it gives me a chance to wipe off my soldering iron. Basically, after you melt plastic or anything like that, you're going to want to clean off your soldering tip. And that way it'll be ready to go the next time you need it. So anyway, we'll give that a few seconds to dry. We'll do a final check out on it here as soon as it hardens up a little bit. See, so now I didn't have to basically I didn't have to go out and heat up a hot glue gun just for that little piece there. And we're just about ready to put this telephone back together again so we can do a final check. We could go ahead and get a screw in it, I would imagine. Why don't we do that? Now, I wasn't the first technician to work on this telephone. This telephone was worked on by someone else, and then they sent it to us. We're pretty much what we would call generally your last hope for working on telephones. We work on telephones that other companies don't want to get involved with, or sometimes they don't know how to repair them really. And you know, we've always had the same old motto here. We'll look at it. We're not going to turn anything down. And if we can repair it after we look at it, we're going to do it. I want to tuck this line cord. Maybe get this down here where you can see it. I want to tuck this handset line cord down and let it dry a little bit after we melt it. And that gets tucked in there. So I think we're ready to get this all back together again. There we are. Now, we did have a problem with this phone earlier. I noticed before we ever started working on it that when you would hang this telephone up, the hook switch here on the telephone, there's a little bracket here that kind of, or a piece of plastic that kind of sits out a little bit. It's supposed to catch that hook switch and hang the telephone up. So what we're going to do now is we're going to see if, since we've taken it apart and put it back together again, if it matches up now here. And it does, because we noticed that the hook switch was not tight. The screw was loose. So that should be that. I don't care for the ringer. The ringer is not very loud. And so now what we're going to do, the other thing I want to talk to you about, you should be able to hear dial tone. The other thing I want to talk to you about is this telephone is in between, it's kind of a transitional type telephone. If you notice, it has a square touch tone buttons, but yet this telephone dials out in pulse. See? And then they use the star button for mute, and they use the pound button for redial. So let's hang up. And there it is redialing. So we're back to normal with this telephone, and we're getting out of our time frame for YouTube. So this is a robot telephone. We appreciate you watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and goodbye.